In this video, we are going to learn how to create a user in MySQL. The MySQL user is a record in the user table of the MySQL server that contains the login information, account privileges, and the host information for MySQL account. It is essential to create a user in MySQL for accessing and managing the database. Okay, so there is a table in user table in MySQL server which contains the information like login information, account privileges, and host information. Means everything related to a user. Means how many users are present and what is the login information, means the username and the password, what are the privileges associated to that account, and the host information. The MySQL create user statement allows us to create a new user account in the database server. So we will make use of the create user statement in order to create a new user. Okay, so we will be looking at the syntax as we move further. It provides authentication, resource limit, role, and password management properties for the new accounts. It also enables us to control the accounts that should be initially locked or unlocked. So even we can lock some of the accounts or unlock them. If you want to use the create user, it is required to have a global privilege of create user statement or the insert privilege for the MySQL system schema. When you create a user that already exists, it gives an error. But if you use if not exist clause, the statement gives a warning for each named user that already exists instead of an error message. Okay, so let's understand it completely now. See, what it is saying is whenever we install MySQL, there is one default username called root. Okay, so you must have noticed that while installing MySQL, we even set the password. Okay, in my case, I had set the password as root. But in case of XAMPP, when we installed XAMPP, at that time uh, we did not get any option to set the password, so that's why our password was blank at that time. But the default user is always root. Okay, and root has all the privileges to access and manage the database, so it has initially all the privilege. But it might happen sometime. Now let's assume that I live in Mumbai and my employee is living in Delhi. Now if he wants to access the database, I will have to create a user, right? Only then he can access and manage the database. So I can create a new user, set a password and username, and I can grant him some privileges depending on what type of employee is he. If he is at the top position, I will grant him more privileges. If he is not at much top position, I will not uh, grant him more privilege. That is for sure. Okay, so basically I can granting privileges means I'm basically restricting its role, means what all rules it can perform. Either it can view the database or maybe insert, update, delete, depending on what all privileges have I granted him. So this is how you can create a new users, means you can create as many users as you want. Okay, using the create users. So initially we have only this user called root, and then we root has all the privileges. Okay, and then we can create new and new users using create user state. Now let's see further. When the MySQL server installation completes, it has a root user account only to access and manage the database. But sometimes you want to give the database access to others. Okay, there are many employees in an organization. Okay, so there are cases where I might have to give the database access to some other people as well without granting them full control. In that case, you will create a non-root user and grant them specific privileges to access and modify the database. Okay, so basically, initially when we install MySQL, we have a username called root, default user called root, and it has all the privilege. Okay, and then I can create as many users as I want and grant them privileges. Okay, depending on what type of user is he. Now the syntax is create user. Now these are the keywords in MySQL. Create is a keyword, user is a keyword. If not exist is a clause. Okay, we will be learning why we used this if not exist clause. So if not exist is a clause. So basically I will just so basically I'll just read this part. See, here I said when you create a user that already exists, it gives an error. Okay, so if a user is already created and if I again try to create the same user, it will give us an error. But if you use this clause, if not exist, the statement gives a warning for each named user that already exists instead of an error message. So if you use this clause, you won't get an error message. Instead, you will get a warning. So that is better. Instead of getting an error, getting a warning is much better. So that's why we make use of this clause followed by the account name, and these two are the keywords identified by, and we can just give out a password for that user. Okay, so let's see. In the above syntax, the account name has two parts. It has two parts, username, and another is the host name, which is separated by ampersand symbol. Here the username is the name of the user, so simply username is the name, and hostname is the name of the host from which the user can connect with the database. I should even have a host, right, from which a user can connect. So basically it is the combination of username and hostname. Now here one thing to note is the create user creates a new user with full access. So if you want to give privileges to the user, it is required to use the grant statement. See, if you simply create a user like this, it will have all the privileges. So if you want to grant him some specific privileges, then you can make use of grant statement. Or if you want to revoke some privileges, then you can make use of revoke statement. Okay, so how to grant privileges and how to revoke privileges, we will be learning all these in the further videos, but for now let's concentrate how to create a user. Okay, so now what I will do is first we will just go to our browser. Let's go to our browser. Okay, and now I will just type here localhost. Just type simply local, that's all. Okay. And make sure, one more thing to note, make sure your Apache and MySQL both are on. Okay. Keep them on whenever you are working with XAMPP. Okay. And now we will just go to PHP MyAdmin. We'll just click on this. Okay, so we are in PHP MyAdmin, and now what we will be doing is first we will create a database. Okay, because then only I can create a user that can have access to that database. Okay, so the first step is to create a database, and then we will be creating a user. So I will just go to SQL. I like to fire queries, so I will just go to this tab, just zoom in. Okay, and first we will create a database. I'll just say create. In order to create a database, use create, then database, keyword database followed by the database name. Now in this case what we can do is I will simply name it as test database. Okay, so what I'm saying is create database with this name, test database. So a database called test database will be created. So I will just run this. I will just go to Go. Here you can see the Go button. Just click on it. And as you can see, our database has been created. Okay. So here you can see test database. This database has been created. Now we will just click on this. So we will be inside this database. Okay, so now we are inside this database called test database. Now I will again go to SQL tab, and now I will create a user. Now in order to create a user, we use create user. If not exist, then we have account name, that is the combination of username. Let's give the username as Vatsal ampersand host name. In our case, it is localhost. I'll just say localhost, then identified by password. Let's keep it as Vatsal. Okay, and I'll just say semicolon. Okay, so the statement is create a user if not exist Vatsal at the rate localhost identified by Vatsal. Okay, so I will just click on go, and I guess I will get a warning in this case. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, I got the warning. Can't create this user because it already exists. I forgot that I have already made a user called Vatsal, so I can't create it again. So I just wanted to show you what kind of warning it gives us. See, the query got executed, but it gave us the warning. Okay, so now what I will do is instead of Vatsal, we will just say a new name. Let's say create user if not exists, and I can simply say mark at the rate localhost identified by, let's keep the password as mark and semicolon. So I'm now creating a new user called Mark. Okay, now it won't give us any warning. Okay, because this is a completely new user, and I'll just execute this query. Just click on go. Okay, so now we did not get any warning, and I guess a user has been created. Now, in order to check whether the user is created or not, what we will do is we will fire a query, select user from mysql dot user. So basically what it is, see now, so we already know there is a table called user in MySQL which will store all the information related to a user. Means the login information, the account privileges, and the information related to host. So this table will return me all the users that are currently present in my MySQL server. All the users. Okay? So the syntax is select. Select we generally use when we want to fetch data. Okay, so in that case, we make use of select statement. I know we haven't learned all these things, but for now, just understand we make use of select statement when we want to fetch some data. And here in this case, I want to fetch all the username, right? So I'm simply saying select user from mysql.user. So I will get all the users that are currently present in my data MySQL server. So I'll just say go. Okay, so as you can see, it has written all the users that are available. So first is root, then see mark. The user mark has been created, and even see there is a user called Vatsal. That's why it gave us the warning, because Vatsal was already present and we were creating a new user with that same name. Okay, so name should be different for all, and this, as you can see, mark, this user has been created. But now one thing to note here is we have created this user mark. So currently he is having all the privileges. Okay, so we can grant him some privileges, or we can even revoke some privileges from mark. So that we will learn in the further videos. Now in the next videos we will be learning about how to delete a user from the server, how to rename a user, and basically about the privileges. So this is all about creating a user in MySQL. Thank you.